8 years. He had followed his boss with absolute loyalty for 8 years, like a faithful dog. But simply because he fell for the boss's girlfriend, the boss ordered him to be buried alive. The one who kicked him into the pit was the second-in-command, the very men he had overshadowed for 8 years. The ones who buried him were the underlings who had always obeyed his every command. No matter how desperately he screamed, they ignored him until the dirt completely covered his body. But fate wasn't ready to let him die. After an unknown amount of time, the muddy earth suddenly shifted. A blood-soaked hand burst through the surface, followed by a head caked in mud. Gasping for air, he endured the agonizing pain and pulled his broken left arm free from the pit. Driven by sheer survival instinct, he crawled back from the brink of death. The rain washed the blood and dirt from his face, and with it, the last shred of hope he had ever placed in his boss. Now, only one thought remained in his mind: survive, then take revenge. Suddenly, a round of applause pulled him back to reality. It turned out the boss still had a trace of sentiment. He had instructed the second-in-command not to pack the dirt too tightly. If Sunwoo could climb out on his own, he would be given one last chance to live. Sunwoo was then taken to an abandoned warehouse, where several gang members blasted him with high-pressure water hoses. The freezing stream sliced across his wounds like knives, sending unbearable pain deep into his bones. The same underlings who once treated him with utmost respect now laughed mercilessly at his misery. Watching the once invincible top enforcer reduced to a drenched, stray dog filled the second-in-command, Manager Moon, with immense satisfaction. Manager Moon then pulled a cell phone from his pocket. If Sunwoo admitted his mistake and sincerely apologized to the boss, perhaps the boss would spare his life out of old affection. But Sunwoo had no intention of remaining a loyal fool. Nor did he intend to beg for his life. He would seize control of his own fate. His sharp eyes quietly scanned the positions of every thug in the warehouse and memorized the location of the exit. When Manager Moon turned away, Sunwoo pretended to call the boss while secretly removing the phone's battery. Thinking Sunwoo had already apologized, Manager Moon smugly walked over. "What's that? A charger?" In that instant, Sunwoo exploded like a wild beast breaking free from its cage. He charged straight into the crowd, his face twisted with rage, every strike vicious and merciless. Though one arm was crippled, he was still the Seven Stars gang's deadliest fighter. The gang members who relied only on intimidation were no match for him. Every punch carried 8 years of humiliation and suppressed fury. Fighting while retreating toward the warehouse exit, he soon reached the doorway. The lookout in the car noticed something was wrong and rushed over to help, only to be tackled by Sunwoo and slammed onto the vehicle. Facing a flood of enemies, Sunwoo chose not to continue fighting. Instead, he dove into the car and floored the accelerator. The gang members pounded on the vehicle like zombies, desperately trying to stop him. To shake them off, Sunwoo repeatedly stomped on the gas, spinning the car in circles. Finally, gritting his teeth, he drove straight through a wall and escaped the encirclement. By the time Manager Moon ran outside, Sunwoo had vanished. Realizing he had made a catastrophic mistake, he immediately called the boss. The moment Chairman Kong learned that Sunwoo had escaped, even he became afraid, because no one understood Sunwoo's capabilities better than he did. The loyal hunting dog was gone. What remained was a vengeful wolf, and he intended to make everyone who betrayed and humiliated him pay in blood. What kind of woman could make a cold-blooded killer, who had served his boss faithfully for 8 years, choose betrayal? The story goes back 1 month earlier. Sunwoo was the Seven Stars gang's top enforcer and Chairman Kang's most trusted right-hand man. He handled every task with ruthless efficiency and never failed a mission. Everyone in the organization knew Chairman Kang was the boss, but in reality, the man who truly held authority was Sunwoo. One day, 3 customers caused trouble at one of the gang's clubs. As soon as Sunwoo heard about it, he rushed over. He politely bowed and asked them to leave. The 3 men had no idea how serious the situation was. It turned out they were members of Korea's second-largest crime syndicate, led by Boss Wong.
민기야, 문 걸어라.
When Boss Wong learned his men had been beaten, he immediately contacted Manager Moon, who happened to know him. Manager Moon warned Sunwoo that he had made a huge mistake and urged him to apologize immediately. But Sunwoo didn't even bother taking either of them seriously. Humiliated, Boss Wong flew into a rage. When one of his own men continued grinning, Boss Wong smashed a phone into his head. Still not satisfied, he ordered his men to keep beating him until he felt better. News of the incident quickly reached Chairman Kong. Far from being angry, he was very pleased with how Sunwoo had handled it and even invited him over for dinner. Manager Moon also arrived shortly afterward, but only to be scolded. Since he was responsible for managing the club, abandoning his post for personal matters was unacceptable. No matter how repeatedly he apologized, Chairman Kong mercilessly berated him. From that moment on, Manager Moon blamed everything on Sunwoo. After Moon left, Chairman Kong assigned Sunwoo a special mission. He had no idea that what seemed like a simple assignment would drag him into a living hell. Chairman Kong suspected his young girlfriend, Hee-soo, was having an affair. Since he was leaving for Shanghai on business, he ordered Sunwoo to keep a close eye on her. If he confirmed she was cheating, he could either call Chairman Kong immediately, or kill them both on the spot. As Chairman Kang's most loyal subordinate, Sunwoo accepted without hesitation. The next morning, carrying a gift Chairman Kong had prepared for Hee-soo, Sunwoo arrived at her apartment. The moment the door opened, his heart skipped a beat. Wearing a white dress and standing barefoot on the wooden floor, Hee-soo looked radiant as sunlight poured through the window, surrounding her with a golden glow. Sunwoo had seen countless beautiful women, but none had ever made his heart race like this. For the first time, he understood why Chairman Kong treasured her so much. Over the following days, Sunwoo quietly stayed by her side. He watched her practice the cello. He watched her drink coffee at cafes. He watched her shop with friends. Eventually, Hee-soo grew accustomed to his presence. Sometimes she chatted with him, asking simple questions about the outside world. Sunwoo answered carefully, always hiding the darkness inside him. In front of her, he didn't want to be a ruthless killer. He just wanted to be an ordinary man. But the inevitable finally arrived. One afternoon, Sunwoo saw Hee-soo get into a stranger's car. Silently, he followed them. They had dinner together. They danced at a bar. The man was handsome. Standing beside Hee-soo, they looked like the perfect couple. A strange jealousy burned inside Sunwoo. He tried convincing himself he was simply carrying out Chairman Kang's orders. But deep down, he knew the truth. He wasn't angry because Hee-soo had betrayed Chairman Kong. He was jealous of the other men. Late that night, the men finally drove Hee-soo home. Watching the car leave, Sunwoo breathed a sigh of relief. But just as he turned to go, the car suddenly made a U-turn. His anger exploded. Instead of ringing the doorbell, he sprinted forward, vaulted over the wall, and kicked open the bedroom door. The man had just stepped out of the bathroom. Terrified, he turned to run. Sunwoo dropped him with a single kick. The men tried to fight back, but he was just a child in front of a trained killer like Sunwoo. Hee-soo tried to stop him, but he just pushed her away. His anger reached its peak. Grabbing a nearby floor lamp, Sunwoo prepared to smash his head. Then Hee-soo suddenly threw herself over the man, shielding him with her own body. Sunwoo froze. Looking at her tear-filled eyes, her fear, and her desperate plea, his heart softened. He had never seen a woman cry in such a heartbreaking way. Slowly, he lowered the lamp. He took out his phone, his thumb instinctively moving to Chairman Kang's number. But just before pressing the call button, he hesitated. Because he knew the moment he made that call, both of them would die. Memories of the past few days flashed through his mind. Her playing the cello, her smile, her gentle voice whenever she spoke to him. She had become the only light in his dark world. In the end, he put the phone away. The men scrambled to his feet and fled. Hee-soo looked at Sunwoo with a complicated expression. She didn't thank him. Instead, she coldly told him to leave. Sunwoo stood there in disbelief. He never imagined his compassion would be repaid this way. Heartbroken, he walked out of her apartment. On the drive home, his mood couldn't have been worse. Then a group of spoiled rich kids in sports cars pulled up beside him. They spat at his window and flicked cigarette butts into his face. Sunwoo slammed the accelerator. He forced their sports car to stop on a bridge, then got out and brutally beat every one of them. Finally, he threw their car keys into the river. Even as he watched them panic, the anger inside him refused to fade, because he knew he had betrayed Chairman Kong, and the price of betrayal would soon come due. After returning from Shanghai, Chairman Kong immediately went to see Hee-soo. One glance at her guilty eyes was enough. He understood everything. He also realized Sunwoo had fallen for her. That was why he had protected her. And that was something Chairman Kong could never forgive. Over the next few days, Sunwoo stopped escorting Hee-soo. But the brief peace didn't last long. Late one night, as he lay awake on his couch, every light in his apartment suddenly went out. Before he could react, a barrage of clubs rained down on him. He collapsed instantly. A man wearing a cap slowly walked into the room. He was Boss Huang's most trusted subordinate. When Sunwoo regained consciousness, he found himself suspended in midair, beaten nearly to death like a slaughtered animal. Boss Huang approached several gang members. At his command, the man in the cap put on a leather apron, drew a razor-sharp knife, while another placed a large plastic basin underneath to catch the blood. For perhaps the first time in his life, even the usually calm Sunwoo vomited in fear. Just then, the phone rang. The next moment, Sun Wu found himself tied up inside a van before being dumped onto an empty dirt field. He assumed Boss Wong had released him because of pressure from the Seven Stars gang. He couldn't have been more wrong. The real nightmare was only beginning. Standing before him was Chairman Kong himself, surrounded by dozens of gang members. Everything had been arranged by him. To Chairman Kong, Sun Wu had always been his sharpest weapon. A weapon wasn't supposed to have feelings or thoughts, only obedience. But now that weapon has developed a will of its own. It had even tried protecting his woman. That was absolutely unforgivable. Manager Moon finally got the revenge he had been waiting for. He ordered his men to pin Sun Wu down, then brought over a giant wrench, leading to the horrifying scene at the beginning of the story. However, Chairman Kong never expected Manager Moon to be so incompetent. He knew Sun Wu would come back for revenge. So he immediately gathered every major gang leader in the city, and issued a citywide kill order against him. Meanwhile, Sun Wu refused to sit and wait for death. With nothing left to lose, he sought out an arms dealer who had once done business with the Seven Stars gang. Pretending Chairman Kong had sent him, he requested a shipment of weapons. The dealer was cautious. Even though he recognized Sun Wu, he insisted on calling Chairman Kong to verify the story. While waiting, the bored arms dealer challenged Sun Wu to a game, who could assemble a gun the fastest. Neither of them realized that harmless game would become the dealer's death sentence. The instant Chairman Kong answered the phone, Sun Wu's eyes turned ice cold. As the dealer listened, the color slowly drained from his face. Without hesitation, Sun Wu assembled his weapon at lightning speed. The nearby gang members still thought it was part of the competition. Seconds later, the dealer and all his men were dead. Sun Wu collected every gun and every round of ammunition. His revenge had officially begun. His first target was the man in the cap. Forcing him to cooperate, Sun Wu lured Boss Wong to an ice rink. The moment Boss Wong saw Sun Wu standing there, the smile vanished from his face. He couldn't believe the man who had been buried alive was still alive. Boss Wong tried to remain calm while secretly reaching into his pocket. Suddenly he pulled out a small knife and repeatedly stabbed him. He collapsed on the ground. Wong thought he won, but the next second, gunshots rang out. Boss Wong collapsed into a pool of blood. After hastily bandaging his own wound, Sun Wu stared into a mirror. His eyes had become colder than ever. His next target, Manager Moon. Knowing Moon always smoked in the hotel restroom at exactly 10 every night, Sun Wu hid inside a bathroom stall. Right on schedule, Moon arrived. Sun Wu stepped out and fired multiple shots into him. Manager Moon fell dead on the floor. His eyes remained wide open. Even in death, he couldn't believe Sun Wu had actually come back to kill him. With Moon eliminated, Sun Wu took the elevator straight to the hotel's top floor. Chairman Kong was holding a meeting in the banquet hall. The instant the elevator doors opened, Sun Wu raised his gun. Before the bodyguards could react, they collapsed one after another. Like a demon crawling out of hell, Sun Wu left a trail of blood wherever he went. Chairman Kong sat calmly in his chair. Covered in blood, Sun Wu stood before him. Yet the chairman showed no fear. It was as though he had expected this day all along. Are you really going to do this? I've worked beside you like a dog for 7 years. Go ahead, say whatever you want. Chairman Kong remained expressionless. He knew Sun Wu better than anyone. He believed in Sun Wu's loyalty. His respect would prevent him from pulling the trigger. But he forgot one thing. The loyal Sun Wu had already died inside that muddy grave. A gunshot echoed through the banquet hall. Chairman Kong stared in disbelief at the bloody hole in his chest, before collapsing to the floor. Looking at the corpse, Sun Wu felt no satisfaction, only endless emptiness. Then, a bullet grazed his head. It was the man in the cap. He had survived. Returning with several gunmen, he launched one final assault. A fierce gunfight erupted. Bullets tore through the bar, splintering wood in every direction. Hit multiple times, Sun Wu's strength slowly faded. He knew he wouldn't leave this place alive. Taking advantage of a brief reload, he made one final charge. Moments later, he collapsed onto a staircase, covered in blood. His vision blurred. His breathing grew weaker. With his last bit of strength, he pulled out his phone and called Hisu. Hello. Her voice was still as gentle as ever. Sun Wu opened his mouth, but couldn't say a single word. Hearing her voice one last time was enough. As moonlight poured through the window, the final image in his mind was of Hisu playing the cello. Sunlight shining on her face, a faint smile on her lips. It was the most beautiful sight he had ever seen, the only sweetness he had ever known. He had once been nothing more than a weapon, cold, loyal, flawless, but against all reason, he fell in love. A love so humble, he never even dared admit it to himself. He never crossed the line, never confessed, never even told her how he felt. He simply protected the brief warmth that had illuminated his dark life, with his own life.